Hello folks, and welcome to my review of Conan the Barbarian 2011. Yes, I finally watched it again and again and again and again and again so I could give you guys a review, an honest opinion about this movie, how it holds up against the material, and so on and so forth. Now, before I start, let me point out that they promised they would base the movie, it wouldn't be a remake, it would be based on most of the original material, so it's kind of a reboot. So it's going to be based on the books, on the comics, on the other movies? No, it's going to be based probably on the novel, with maybe a little bit of the comic books. Now, let's talk a little bit about this. The movie Conan the Barbarian 2011 was pretty good. They based his character on the novels and a little bit of the comic books. The comic books are kind of mixture of, they follow the book or they made their own character who looked pretty buff. Conan the Barbarian in the books, almost unstoppable. He does sometimes screw up a little bit, but he's a spirit. He really, he focuses and he goes towards it and he destroys it. This is hard to convey on the big screen or even in comic books. So a lot of times they went for making Conan look bigger. And sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. I think with the original movies it does work. Arnold portrayed Conan as basically a person who's very focused. His sword goes through the obstacles. Now let's talk about the movie a little bit. The first 15 minutes are excellent. The teen they chose to be the young Conan is focused, he's intense, there is a lot of action. The movie itself is pretty light on the computer graphics, computer special effects. They actually do a lot of practical. A lot of the characters, the actors do their own stunts and all that. So fight scenes and such really do look real because they are real. We do get a lot of character development. Obviously, this is a revenge story, but there's also other elements in it. For example, relationship between Conan and his father. His father's trying to teach him about being more balanced. You just don't use anger to control the sword. You think. You use cunning. You back down. You cool off. And this is something that he's going to have to learn. At the same time, he's trying to get revenge because if you don't think, if you just blindly go into things, you might not be able to achieve what your goal is. In this case, he's trying to kill the bad guy. So it's not a remake. Yet it is, because it is a revenge story, which was what the Arnold one was. But it's not stealing exactly from the Arnold movie. In fact, there's complaints about that. Many people, because after the 15 minutes, you go from the teenage Conan to the adult Conan. There's no in-between. There's no development of the character, seeing him through the years, doing whatever he does to get up to that point where he's a strong warrior. And a lot of people complain. They said, wait, you didn't show that. That was in the Arnold movie. Okay, guys, they're not doing a remake. And you explained exactly why it's not in here. It was already in the Arnold movie. Okay? There's a lot of good characters in this, a lot of good actors. Ron Perlman as Father Conan, could you have picked anybody better? And this is not their first choice either. I was reading some of the information. This is not their first choice. But oh my God, these two did great together. This has a very strong opening. The first 15 minutes or so are perfect. Perfect. And on top of that, they have a really good villain. The bad guy wants a mask, a magical mask, to help bring back his wife so he could become a god and basically rule the world. But here's the thing. His daughter is also a witch, very powerful, could easily do the same thing that his wife could. But he still wants his wife. Why? He loves her. At one point, somebody suggests that his wife deserved to die, and he bashes that guy's brains out. He's a good actor. This is the same guy you might have saw in Avatar. He and the Conan character actually have sword fights, real ones. This guy actually got cut in the forehead. You can actually see it in the film footage of their first fight. Close-ups of his face. There's no cut, then there's a cut. I mean, this movie really did try to do its best to do practical effects. There's all these complaints about special effects being mostly computer and 3D and all that. I didn't see this in 3D. I got a regular DVD and watched it. I might have lost some of the magic on the small screen, but I cannot complain about the special effects. These were pretty good. The problem is when the end of the film, when the plot and the themes and everything come together and Conan kills the bad guy. Didn't think you'd see this, did you? Red Sonja. The bad guy falls into lava. Spoiler! Just like Gollum. The ending, when Conan finally kills the villain, he does so in such a way that also shows his character has developed. He's understand the lesson his father has given him. That's great. But in the end, it's kind of unsatisfying. It's not very Conan-y. It's not indestructible, moving forward, smashing everything in your way. Not that Conan was an idiot. He was actually pretty intelligent. And throughout this movie, the character who plays, the actor who plays the character Conan, does throw a few jokes out there. He actually smiles. You know, he actually shows that he is a real, well, two-dimensional, not three-dimensional, but, you know, a person. But it starts to fall down because, like I said, the ending is taken from every movie you can think of. And also, the setting is kind of, well, they do try to mention scenes and areas and places in the Conan universe. But the problem is they'll mention something that's like on the western coast over there, and then your character has to get to the inland sea in the middle there, and then they jump out of the cliff, and I think that's the same area, and they get picked up by the boat who couldn't have gotten there because there's no way to go from the ocean to the inland sea. And listen, I don't know that much about Conan, but I'm pretty sure some of the things they did, they would have taken them weeks or even months to get from one place to the other. Thankfully, the movie's only 112 minutes, and they didn't try to put all that in there. Otherwise, we'd have a 3-movie series, like The Hobbit. So, at a certain point, I started going, what? No, that doesn't make any sense. On top of that, while it's nice they put places from the novels and the comic books into the movie, if you're not a Conan fan, you're not going to care. And if you are a Conan fan, you're going to be going, wait, those two places are nowhere near each other. And is that lake called Lake Ho? Yeah, sorry, I got derailed. And this is where it starts to kind of get me. I start asking questions like, why? 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 For example, why does everything look like a scene? Most of the landscape kind of remind me of Beastmaster. Just saying. Then there's the music. Technically, I didn't really notice the music. You know, when you watch Jaws, you come out of the theater like, you know, dun 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 dun. Or Star Wars, you come out of the Star Wars theater. Even the prequels, they still have the music, and that's good because otherwise there'd be no reason to watch the prequels. You know, dun 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 dun. Battlestar Galactica, the original one, had music that was interesting. I mean, Superman, Star Trek, Raiders of the Lost Ark, great music, wonderful music. Yogcast with Diggy Diggy Hole. I can't get out of their head after you listen to that for a couple times. I don't remember the music. Now remember, I watched this again and again and again and again. I can't remember the music. It didn't have any as far as I'm concerned. That's a problem. Right. There's a scene where Conan saves all these slaves, and all the women are topless. Now I'm assuming the slavers made them topless to put them on display for potential buyers. Though technically, the guys weren't bottomless, and if you're a female buyer, wouldn't you want... Never mind, I'm losing... Okay. But the point is, the next scene, when they show that they've rescued all of them, and they're in a port city, and they're drinking and having fun, all the women are still topless. Or some of them are still topless. Or maybe these are different women. It made me go, what? And I went from watching a movie to questioning a movie. And I went from going, oh, this is interesting, to going, why did they do that? And that's one of the problems. It continued to happen. Even before this, it happened a couple times. The Picts, when they attack Conan, the young Conan, scream like pigs or velociraptors. Why? They're human beings. They're pre-Celtic people. They're in a couple of Robert E. Howard's books, not just the Conan books. That just confused the hell out of me. I didn't understand what was going on at that point. Now, I was able to get back into the movie because it was so good, the beginning so strong. But once again, a large part of the movie started making me question why. I know why. Well, at least the extreme violence and topless nature of many of the, women, they want an R rating. In the commentary, the actress who is with one of the other actors said, "We're going for an R rating." Listen, when you have a story and you're making it into a movie, you do everything you can to bring that story out. You support that story with good writing, good characters, good effects that support the story. Everything should support the story. When you go into making a movie, you should go in thinking about one thing: how do I put this into a film? How do I make this story alive for the people? Then you when they give it a rating, and you for example, if you want a family film and they give you an R, you obviously have to go back and change it. Or if you're making a strong movie that has very mature, very adult themes, and they give it an R rating, well, that's okay. Well, that's probably what's going to happen. You don't go into it and the first thing you say to the cast and the writers, all that, we need an R rating. Because when people say we were going for an R rating, it means we were going to make money. When I hear we're going for an R rating, flags pop up in my head. You don't decide what rating your movie's going to get. You work on making it a good movie. And then if you need to adjust it, you adjust it later. That is not the priority. You do not add toplessness and sex and violence and strong languages to get the rating you want. You put that in if it's needed. And you don't pour it in. You're subtle with it. Conan's character, like I said, is a very strong character in the book. Now, when you translate that, when you take his character and you put it in a form that has visual form, like a comic book or a movie, sometimes you have to change him physically to show the spirit of his unstoppable nature. They did that with some of the comics. They just made him bigger. And they did that with the Arnold in the original movies. They said we have to have somebody who is the spirit of Conan in the flesh. Now, they wanted to get a accurate description of Conan in this movie, so they went for somebody who looks like Conan from the book. I think in some ways that might have backfired, because in some ways when he was fighting, and he was sometimes getting his butt kicked. Now, once again, realistically, he actually got hit. He got hurt a couple times. He actually needed help afterwards, and he actually has a real scar on his face from a bar fight. So he actually looked like somebody who could take on a bunch of guys with a sword and all that. But every once in a while, you kind of went, he's getting beat up a little too much. The fight's lasting a little too long. This movie gets a 2 out of 5. It just didn't work for me. There's times where I realized that there were scenes that had nothing to do with the story, or they could have been taken out. This is 112 minutes. There was at least 20 minutes I thought that could be taken out. Also, when you start out really strong, sometimes you handicap yourself. There are books and movies that start really strong, and then no matter what they do, you're going to get a weak ending. And sometimes it's just the fact that you start out so well, and then you didn't really drop the ball. Just nothing happened. It actually felt kind of boring. And that's a really part of what happened. It actually felt near the end boring. You didn't care what was going to happen. I've looked at a lot of other reviews, and one of the big things you see, especially in the Rotten Tomato reviews, is the words bland, forgettable. After about 20 minutes, I was asking, why is this going on? What are they doing? What decision was this? And that's what happened with this movie. If you're a Conan fan, even more so than I am, this might swing either way. You might be so happy that they made it. And because they made it, there's supposedly a Red Sonja sequel in the works, and there's a sequel to the original Conan. They're completely skipping Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer. They're going straight for Conan the Barbarian and making a sequel. Or you might know more about it than I do and watch this film and go, none of that makes any sense. The setting's wrong. This character didn't do that. How did they get from here to there? Blah, blah, blah. So, and if you're into fantasy, just general fantasy, you're not a Conan fan, I would suggest just getting Hawk the Slayer, or Beastmaster, the original Conan, or Sword and the Sorcerer, and anything else you can think of to spend your money on. Okay? Okay, guys. Thanks for listening.